I hooked up with my best friend's crush before they were official. Am I the worst friend ever? I, 25 female, have been best friends with Lena, 26 female, for almost 8 years. We met in our second year of university when we were both assigned to the same dorm floor, and we instantly clicked. She's the kind of friend who remembers your coffee order, who'll text you random memes at 3 a.m., and who once drove 4 hours in the rain just because I was having a terrible breakup and needed wine and hugs. We've always had this unspoken girl code. Neither of us has ever hooked up with someone the other was even mildly interested in. It wasn't something we had to sit down and formalize. It was just understood. She's been through a few serious relationships, and I've been through, well, let's just say I've had a string of shorter flings that didn't exactly make it to meet the parents territory. But no matter what, we've always been each other's person. That's why what happened a few weeks ago is still making me sick to my stomach. The problem's name is Ryan, 27 male. Lena met him through her gym about 6 months ago, and from the first day she saw him, she's been telling me about how he's totally her type. Tall, easy smile, a little scruffy, that kind of relaxed confidence that makes people gravitate toward him. I'd heard so much about him that by the time I finally met him in person, it felt like I already knew him. But, and this is where things start to get messy, Lena never actually dated him. They texted a bit, and she'd point him out if we ran into him when I was with her, but she never made a move. She kept saying, "I'm just waiting for the right moment," or "I think he's flirting with me, but I'm not totally sure." Meanwhile, he started showing up at more of our group hangs, and he talked to me a lot. At first, I brushed it off. I mean, she called dibs, right? But the thing is, dibs starts to feel a little fuzzy when months pass and no one actually does anything. I wish I could say I handled that fuzzy line better. Lena and I have the kind of friendship that people sometimes envy. We've been through everything together. The chaotic nights in our early 20s when we'd end up barefoot on the kitchen floor at 2 a.m. eating cold pizza and gossiping about whoever had annoyed us that week. The tearful calls when my dad was in the hospital. The countless birthdays, job interviews, Tinder horror stories. She's not just my best friend, she's my family. We've always been protective of each other, especially when it comes to relationships. We both had a few messy experiences with dating in college, guys who cheated, ghosted, or just strung us along. We developed this almost unspoken pact. If one of us liked someone, the other backed off completely. It wasn't about being possessive, it was about respect. Even if the crush never went anywhere, that person was considered off limits. When Lena first mentioned Ryan, it was one of those casual moments that didn't seem like a big deal at the time. We were sitting in her car after a workout class, sweaty and laughing about something stupid, and she suddenly goes, "By the way, there's this guy at my gym, Ryan. Oh my God, he's gorgeous. Totally my type." I remember teasing her, asking if she was going to talk to him. She laughed and said, "Eventually, I'm playing it cool, let him notice me first." It became this ongoing thing. Every week or two, she'd update me. "We talked at the water fountain today. He complimented my form during squats. Is that flirting? I think he's single. Pretty sure." It was cute. I was rooting for her. I'd even make little jokes like, "When's the wedding?" She'd roll her eyes but smile. But here's the thing. Lena can be a slow burner when it comes to guys. She'll wait months before even suggesting hanging out one-on-one. Sometimes that works in her favor, but other times, well, other people don't wait around forever. The first time I met Ryan was at a mutual friend's birthday party, about 3 months after I'd first heard about him. Lena had mentioned he might show up, and when he walked in, I instantly recognized him from her blurry gym selfies. He was exactly as she described. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair, and that confident but friendly energy. He was also more talkative than I expected, and a lot of that talking was directed at me. I told myself this didn't mean anything. I kept steering the conversation toward Lena, trying to make space for her. But I'd be lying if I didn't notice the way his eyes lingered a second too long when we laughed.
or how he seemed to seek me out during the night. That was the first tiny crack in the wall I'd built around Lena's crush, and I didn't patch it up the way I should have. After that birthday party, Ryan somehow became a regular in our social circle. It wasn't like Lena and I suddenly invited him everywhere. It was more like he just kept showing up. If there was a group hang at our favorite pub, he was there. Trivia night, there. Someone's rooftop barbecue. He'd stroll in with a six-pack and that easy grin. At first, I figured Lena had orchestrated it. Maybe she'd been more forward with him and hadn't told me yet. But when I casually asked her one night over drinks if she'd been talking to him much, she just shrugged. Here and there. I think he's busy. I'm still trying to feel him out. Meanwhile, Lena was feeling me out, or at least that's how it felt. It started small. He'd slide into the seat next to me when there were other spots available. He'd ask if I wanted another drink before asking anyone else. At the barbecue, he handed me the first burger off the grill and winked. And at Trivia Night, when we were losing badly, he leaned close to joke that we made a good team, so close I could smell the faint trace of his cologne. Every time it happened, I felt this knot of discomfort. Not just because of Lena, but because I didn't know how to respond without making things awkward. I'd laugh it off, keep conversations short, or redirect him toward her. But Ryan never seemed to take the hint. Or maybe he just didn't care. There was one night in particular that really stuck with me. A bunch of us went to this low-key dive bar, and Lena couldn't make it because she was working late. Ryan showed up anyway. When I asked why, he just grinned and said, "I heard you were going to be here." I froze. I laughed like it was just some casual friendly thing, but my brain was already buzzing with alarm bells. I told Lena about it the next day, not in detail, just that Ryan had been there and it was fun. I left out the part about him basically saying he came for me. I told myself it was because I didn't want to make her insecure, but deep down, I think I didn't want to face the reality of the situation. By the time the night that changed everything rolled around, Ryan and I had built this weird low-level tension. It was never explicit, but it was there. And the truth? Part of me liked the attention. It felt dangerous, but in the kind of way you can pretend isn't dangerous until you're already in too deep. And that's exactly what happened. It happened on a Saturday that started off so ordinary. One of our friends, Jamie, was throwing a birthday party at their apartment. Nothing huge, just 20 or so people, music, cheap beer, and that one table inevitably covered in random bottles of liquor and sticky red cups. Lena had said she tried to make it, but wasn't sure. She'd been swamped at work all week and was exhausted. I remember texting her before I left. Me. Coming tonight? Lena. Not sure. Leaning towards staying in. Go have fun, though. Heart. That little heart made me feel less guilty for going without her. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. This wasn't our night, it was Jamie's. When I got there, the place was already buzzing. People were dancing in the living room, the kitchen smelled like pizza, and someone had started a very heated debate about whether pineapple belongs on pizza. I still say yes. Ryan showed up about half an hour after me. He spotted me from the doorway, gave this big wave, and crossed the room like we were old friends. I'd had one drink already, so I was feeling warm, relaxed. He looked, well, good. Dark jeans, plain black t-shirt, hair just a little messy like he hadn't tried too hard, but somehow nailed it anyway. We talked for a while, nothing crazy. Work, music, the fact that Jamie's playlist was all over the place. At some point, he offered to make me a drink. And when he handed it to me, our fingers brushed. Stupid detail, I know, but I felt it. That little spark of awareness that makes your brain short-circuit for a second. The night blurred in that way parties do. Laughter, music, random conversations. But Ryan kept orbiting me. Every time I moved to another room, he'd eventually drift in. At one point, we ended up on the balcony with just a couple other people. The air was cooler out there, and I could smell the faint scent of cigarette smoke from someone nearby. Ryan leaned on the railing next to me, his arm brushing mine. "You're quieter tonight," he said. like he'd been paying that much attention. I shrugged. Just tired. Long week. Then he gave me this look. Not intense, not obvious, but lingering. I looked away first. Later, when most people had either left or crashed in random spots around the apartment, I was in the kitchen grabbing some water. Ryan came in, closed the door behind him, and leaned against it. "Hey," he said, like we were about to talk about something important. I swear, in that moment, I could hear my own heartbeat. We talked for maybe 2 minutes. Nothing deep, just teasing about my boring drink choice. And then he stepped closer. One more step, and suddenly we were kissing. It was not a small, oops, sorry, kiss. It was deliberate, slow at first, then more insistent. And I kissed him back. I didn't think about Lena, not for that split second, or maybe I did and just shoved it into a locked drawer in my brain. I don't know if it was the alcohol or the months of subtle tension or just bad judgment, but we didn't stop at kissing. We ended up in Jamie's spare room. It wasn't romantic, rushed whispers, clumsy laughter, clothes half off, but it happened. The second it was over, reality came crashing back. I sat there trying to catch my breath, staring at the floor, thinking, what the hell did I just do? Ryan didn't seem fazed. He kissed my shoulder, mumbled something about how I was trouble, and then we both got dressed like nothing had happened. But I couldn't shake the pit in my stomach. I knew this wasn't just about me and him. It was about me, him, and Lena. And I had just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. I woke up in my own bed the next morning, but it didn't feel like waking up. More like surfacing from a restless half-sleep where my brain wouldn't stop replaying what happened. I hadn't stayed over at Jamie's. I had grabbed my bag, mumbled some excuse about an early morning, and called a ride home around 2 a.m., heart pounding the whole way. My phone was on the nightstand. No messages from Lena. No messages from Ryan either, which was somehow both a relief and unsettling. I lay there staring at the ceiling, and the guilt came in waves. At first, it was just this dull ache in my chest. But the longer I thought about it, the sharper it got. I kept hearing her voice in my head, the way she'd gush about him, those little smiles when she talked about her gym crush.
I told myself, again, they weren't together. She'd never even gone on a date with him. But then the counter-argument came just as fast. That doesn't matter. She liked him. You knew she liked him. Around 10 a.m., Ryan texted. Ryan, last night was unexpected. In a good way. I stared at it for a long time before replying with something equally vague. Me, yeah, same. We exchanged maybe 2 more lines of small talk. Nothing about seeing each other again. Nothing about Lena. It was almost like we both silently agreed to keep it compartmentalized. But that's the thing. I couldn't. The more I thought about it, the more impossible it felt to just pretend. Around noon, Lena texted me. Lena, how was the party? Sorry I missed it. And there it was, the moment I could have told her. I could have ripped off the Band-Aid right then. But my thumbs hesitated over the keyboard, and I typed, me, it was fun, but you were missed. Lies by omission still count, right? The rest of the day, I floated between distraction and dread. I went for a walk, scrolled mindlessly through Instagram, half-watched a show on Netflix. But every time my mind wandered, it went right back to that kiss in the kitchen, that locked door, that moment where I could have stopped things and didn't. I think a part of me hoped it would just fade away, that maybe Lena would never know and Ryan and I would pretend it never happened. But deep down, I knew secrets like this don't stay buried forever. And as it turned out, I didn't have to wait long for it to start unraveling. It only took 4 days for everything to blow up. 4 days of me pretending nothing had happened, of Lena texting me about work gossip and new gym leggings, of me smiling at my phone while my stomach twisted. The way she found out still makes my face burn. It wasn't even from me. It was from Jamie. On Wednesday night, Lena called me out of nowhere. I almost didn't answer because my heart jumped into my throat when I saw her name. But I did, and the first thing she said, no hello, no small talk, was,
Why didn't you tell me you hooked up with Ryan? I froze. My brain scrambled for words that didn't sound like excuses. What? I said stupidly, like I could pretend I didn't hear her. She didn't let me. Jamie told me, said they walked in to grab their coat and saw you two coming out of the spare room at the party. Her voice cracked on spare room. My chest felt tight. Lena, just don't, she cut in. I've been talking to you about him for months. I told you how much I liked him and you, decided it didn't matter? I tried to explain that they weren't dating, that nothing had been promised, that it was in the moment and I wasn't thinking, but every sentence felt hollow as I said it. So you were thinking, just not about me. That one hit. Hard. She went quiet after that, and the silence was worse than her yelling. Finally, she said, I thought you were the one person I could trust not to do something like this. I guess I was wrong. And then she hung up. I sat there, phone in my lap, and my face hot and my hands shaking. The guilt I'd been carrying all week suddenly felt 10 times heavier. It wasn't hypothetical anymore. It was real. I'd hurt her, and now she knew. I texted her twice that night, apologizing, offering to meet up and talk. She didn't respond. By the next day, I noticed she had muted my Instagram stories. A couple of our mutual friends seemed colder over group chat, giving one-word replies. The ripple effect had started, and I had no idea how far it would spread. And Ryan? He sent me one text that morning. Ryan, guess Lena's pissed. Sorry. That was it. Like, it was a mild inconvenience, not the wreckage of my longest friendship. Lena still wasn't responding to my texts. I sent a longer one on Friday. I know you're angry. I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. I miss you. Nothing. Meanwhile, Ryan was almost weirdly casual about the whole thing. He texted me a couple of times, just surface-level stuff, a meme, a comment about a new bar opening, but never once brought up Lena or the party again. Part of me wanted him to at least acknowledge the mess we'd made, to admit he'd played a role in this too. But the most I got from him was, "It's not like you did anything wrong. We're adults." That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Instead, it felt like he was trivializing the whole thing, like he didn't understand or didn't care that for me, this wasn't just about a random hookup. It was about the friendship I might have just destroyed. The hardest part was the shift in my own feelings. At the party, kissing him had felt exciting, electric. Now, when I thought about him, all I felt was tension in my chest. Not attraction, but anxiety. He was the reason Lena wouldn't look me in the eye right now, the reason people were whispering. A week later, I saw Lena for the first time in person. It wasn't planned. We both ended up at a mutual friend's game night. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She just acted like I wasn't there. She laughed with other people, moved to another chair when I sat nearby, avoided my eyes entirely. And that cold wall somehow hurt more than if she'd gone off on me again. I left early, muttering something about having to work in the morning. When I got home, I sat in the dark for a long time, wondering if this was it. If one impulsive night had actually ended 8 years of friendship. And the worst part, I couldn't even decide if I was more angry at myself or at Ryan for making me feel like it was no big deal. It's been almost 3 weeks since that night, and I've replayed it so many times that the memory doesn't even feel real anymore. Like I'm watching a scene from someone else's life and shouting at the screen, "Don't do it!" At first, I tried to cling to the technicality. Lena and Ryan were never official. They hadn't gone on a date. He was single, I was single. But the more I sat with it, the more hollow that argument sounded. This wasn't about relationship status, it was about boundaries. Unspoken ones, sure, but ones we'd honored for years. And I broke it. I keep thinking about how I'd feel if the roles were reversed. If I'd been gushing about a guy for months and she ended up hooking up with him before I ever got the chance, I know I'd feel betrayed, even if I had no claim on him. It's the principle of it, the "I thought you were in my corner" part. What messes with my head, though, is Ryan's role in all this. He wasn't oblivious. He knew Lena liked him. She'd talked to him enough times at the gym for it to be obvious. And yet he still chose to flirt with me, to kiss me, to take it further. Shouldn't he carry more of the blame? But blaming him feels like another way to dodge the truth. I had control over my own actions. I could have stopped it at any point. I didn't. Sometimes I wonder if part of me wanted to prove something, not to Lena, but to myself. I've had a rough dating history lately, and maybe I like the idea that someone wanted me enough to make a move, even if he was supposed to be off limits. It's ugly to admit that. Now I'm stuck in this limbo where I want to fix things with Lena, but I don't know if she'll ever trust me again. And even if she did, could it ever be the same? Would she always look at me differently, like I'm capable of stabbing her in the back? I've drafted messages to her, long, honest ones, but I never send them. They all sound like excuses, no matter how I phrase them. And I guess that's the thing. I'm not sure if I'm looking for her forgiveness or for someone to tell me I'm not a terrible person for one bad decision. So here I am, weeks later, still feeling like I'm stuck in the wreckage of something I set on fire myself. Lena hasn't spoken to me since game night. Our group dynamic is different now. People are polite, but there's this invisible line I can feel between us. I've stopped going to some gatherings because I don't want to make it awkward for everyone else. Ryan and I haven't hooked up again. In fact, I haven't seen him much at all. Just a couple of random texts that went nowhere. That almost makes it worse. Like, I blew up my longest, closest friendship for nothing that wasn't even going to be a thing. Just a messy, impulsive night that meant more to me in guilt than it ever did in romance. I keep cycling between two thoughts. One, this is on me. I knew she liked him and I should have respected that. Two, we're all adults. Nothing was official, and maybe she's overreacting. But the truth is, I don't know which is right anymore. So I'm asking you, strangers on the internet, because I can't ask anyone in my real life without it getting messier. Was I totally in the wrong here? Is it always a betrayal if you hook up with your best friend's crush before they make a move? Or is it just bad timing and bad luck? I feel awful, but I also can't help wondering if I'm being made out to be worse than I really am. Am I overreacting about the guilt or underreacting about what I actually did?